Greetings! Today we will have a review of Double Blind, a story of Avanti's Angels by Loren L. Coleman. Using fast and furious hit-and-run tactics, Marcus GioAvanti and his Avanti's Angel mercenaries have earned a tough reputation throughout the Inner Sphere. But the Inner Sphere is not where their newest job is taking them, because their latest employer resides in that remote and mysterious region of space known as the Periphery. The Magistracy of Canopus has been the target of aggressions by the Marian Hegemony, and in hiring Marcus and his gutsy band of can-do commandos, it hopes to retaliate. But the fact that the raiders are armed with technology that is considered rare in the Periphery is the latest of Marcus' problems. He and his angels will have to face the real force behind the hostilities, the religious cult known as Word of Blake. This fanatical group has a scheme deadly enough to trap even the amazing Avanti's Angels. This is a novel written by the Big Pooba himself, LorenLColeman, the CEO owner of Catalyst Game Labs. And I have to say, he does a very good job as an author. The book is a standalone novel, so we do not have a double feature or a trilogy, and it is not a part of the mainline events. So we will not visit Victor, Steinodavian, or any big clan presence. However, I have to point out that it sets up a few later developments. So even if you're not interested in the non-mainline books, it could be sensible to pick it up. The core story is a mission of Avanti's Angels, a smaller but very well-equipped mercenary outfit that was hired to protect the worlds of the Magistracy of Canopus against the Marian Hegemony raiders, but also to discover the source of the equipment that grieves the Magistracy so much. As a result, we will follow these mercenaries all the way from the Chaos March into the Periphery, and there we will get plenty and pretty good mech actions on the planets Marantha and Astrokaszy. However, there's also another storyline that meets with the main plot, and here we can see the political game on Canopus, and especially the personal and very close negotiations between the houses Centrella and Liao. And since Mr. Coleman is not afraid to give us the viewpoint of the antagonists, that means we get a nice parade of magnificent bastards as point-of-view characters. Of course, we will mainly follow Marcus GioAvanti, but we get also a few chapters out of the point of view from Magestrix Emma Centrella, Chancellor Sun-Tzu Liao, and, at this point in the story, demi-presenter Cameron St. Jamais, which is quite interesting. And we also have some minor characters like Naomi Centrella and Demona Assis. Altogether, this book has a very good mixture of military action, intrigue, and politics. I especially like that regarding the intrigue, we get a Columbo-like structure. If you recall, the old Columbo crime series had a twist in their structure. They told you who is the murderer right at the beginning, and you followed Columbo piecing together the case afterwards. And here we have the same. We learn about the intrigue of the Word of Blake, or more specific, the Toyama faction headed by Demona Assis, and we know what's going on, and we have to follow how Marcus GioAvanti and the Chancellor of the Capellan Confederation disable this intrigue. And that's really exciting and something quite unique. It should be also mentioned that we get two smaller but quite good and believable twists at the end of the story. It's nothing world-shattering, but it was very gratifying and interesting to read. I also liked a lot about this book and the story that while the characters are highly competent, none of them is unbelievable. There are no lopsided victories, their plans make sense, and the motivations are clear. All the characters behave in a way I think would be reasonable, at least for their personality and their aims. If you want me to name the negatives, I have a bit of a tough time because the book is very good and there are not many things I have to criticize. But if I have to, it would be the following. The second half of the book plays on the planet Astrokaszy, and we get a deep dive into the rather savage culture of this lost place in the periphery. And that's fine and good, but it also slows the pacing of a novel a bit too much. Especially when it comes to the later chapters where we have desert fights and tribes, and it's not bad because it's all well executed, but it throws the pacing off a bit. The other thing I have to complain about is the overuse of the term and book title double-blind. And the worst thing about it is used in the wrong way. Basically, if you say double-blind, you're using a term from medical testing or scientific studies. For example, if there is a new therapy, you will not simply hand out the therapy to the test subjects. Instead, you will have a double-blind study. You take one scientist who prepares batches of a placebo and batches of a new medicine, and then you have another scientist who is not aware what is placebo, what is the real deal, who then has to administer the cure to the test subjects. And because he doesn't know what is the real deal and what is wrong, and the other doesn't know who gets what, they are both blind, double-blind, and you can get a better and more scientific result. The way the term is used in this book, it's actually just intended to be a synonym for middleman purchase, which is, of course, way off. But that's really just a minuscule gripe, and besides that, I cannot really say bad things about the book. What I really liked was the basic content, because we finally are able to leave the inner sphere behind and take a closer look into the periphery. We get both the completely wild people of Astrokaszy and the more organized realm of Canopus, and it's just refreshing to see this section of human inhabited space for the first time. And of course, I have to say it is great and awesome that we finally get a good and coherent representation of the word of Blake. Praise the Holy Prophet. You probably recall that the first designated Word of Blake novel was Ideal War, which ended up to have very little to do with the Word of Blake and everything with the Vietnam War. You can watch my review about that. But here we finally get a true insight into this splinter faction of Comstar, and we also see the infighting, the different agendas that are at work, and how they operate. Of course, you probably ask yourself, a story where the Word of Blake are the antagonists? Do I really want to follow this book? I just have to say, do not worry, child. While being the antagonists, there is little damage done to the noble mission of the faithful. Only an internal conflict is decided in a resolute fashion. In fact, we could argue that the Word of Blake became even stronger through these tribulations. So you should not feel ashamed to pick up the book. Praise Blake, may his knowledge guide your way.